I was halfway through a dirt racing crash reel, one of those 8-minute compilations with bad country music and worse camera angles, when the security alert popped up on my phone. It was one of those moments where your brain needs half a second to catch up with your eyes. Bright red banner. Critical breach detected. Not a soft warning, not a routine notice, but the kind of alert I'd only ever seen during stress testing. My thumb hit the screen immediately. The notification expanded, lines of system language scrolling into place, and the words that mattered jumped out fast. Unauthorized replication attempt. Not a mistyped password, not a login from a new location. Someone was trying to copy the platform itself. My chest tightened once, sharp and controlled. Then I saw the source tag. Source ID matched to new device user Rick Dalton. Rick, 3 weeks on payroll and already reaching for something that wasn't his. I sat there frozen for a count of 5, the video still playing somewhere behind me, before the focus snapped in. I shut everything else down, grabbed my laptop, and went straight to the home office without even pausing the reel. The moment the screen lit up, muscle memory took over. I pulled logs before my emotions could catch up. My system never missed anything. Device signatures, replication pathways, hardware IDs, browser hashes, timestamps down to the millisecond. I'd designed it that way on purpose. Over 5 years of building, refactoring, tightening, I'd learned that the real danger wasn't outside threats. It was the people who already had a badge. Rick clearly thought I was just another dispatcher with admin privileges handed down by management. He didn't know the platform tracked replication attempts in sealed vaults, completely isolated from user-facing logs. He didn't know the entire system was registered to my LLC, not the company's, and definitely not his. I started a screen recording, opened the back-end dashboard, and navigated straight to the vault. There it was, clean and undeniable. His attempt had tripped 3 internal failovers. Corporate-issued laptop, main office, Concord, New Hampshire, time-stamped at 6:42 a.m., before most of the team had even logged on. I exported the files, labeled them Unauthorized Accessor Dalton, and dropped them into a locked drive. Then I backed that drive up twice. Only after everything was secured did the anger finally surface. This wasn't curiosity. This wasn't a new guy clicking around trying to learn the system. This was intent. A fleet director trying to take something he hadn't built, hadn't earned, and clearly hadn't asked permission for. I leaned forward over my desk, hands flat, jaw tight enough to ache. That's always where it hits me first, right in the jaw. "All right, Rick," I said out loud to an empty room. "Let's see how clever you really are." I opened a blank document and began outlining my response, not emotionally, but surgically. Bullet points, IP traces, clone paths, system reactions. Every detail documented, every step timestamped. My hands stayed steady even as my thoughts drifted backward through the years. When I first came on board, the company barely functioned. 6 trucks total, only half of them operational. Dispatch ran off a whiteboard and a cell phone that cut out whenever the weather turned bad. Billing was handwritten, mileage guessed, errors constant. I'd been freelancing back then, cleaning up back-end messes for logistics outfits that didn't even know what automation could do. Lydia hired me to streamline dispatch, that was the phrase, streamline. Instead, I tore it down to the studs and rebuilt everything from zero. Real-time dispatch tied to driver phones, automated job stacking based on distance and fatigue, billing calculated to the mile, instantly. Then client dashboards, maintenance schedules, service logs, and through all of it, I made sure the system stayed mine. A lawyer drafted the licensing agreement so clean it left no room for interpretation. My LLC owned the code, the infrastructure, the logic. The company had usage rights, nothing more. No edit access to the core, no ownership creep. Lydia signed without hesitation. She just wanted the chaos gone. As the company expanded, I expanded the platform. New yards, new contracts, more complexity. I added features before anyone asked because I could see the problems coming before they hit. Cross-yard scheduling, equipment audits, performance scoring, geofencing. By year 4, the system wasn't just helping operations, it was running them. And still, people talked about it like it was just a program. That was what made Rick's move sting. He knew exactly what he was doing. He saw a system that worked flawlessly, noticed it didn't have his name on it, and decided he'd take it quietly. No conversation, no negotiation, just a grab. I reviewed the logs again. His access route bypassed the interface entirely, straight into the back-end API. That wasn't exploration, that was a theft attempt dressed up as technical confidence. I exported the final file, zipped the folder, added a fresh timestamp, and waited for the progress bar to finish. While it did, I scrolled through old change notes. Dark mode for night dispatchers, fix for stalled GPS pings, late nights debugging push notifications so drivers wouldn't miss ETA updates. Every line of that platform carried my fingerprints, and now someone thought I was optional. I locked the archive and left it untouched. I wasn't going to move first. If Rick wanted to play, he could open the board. The next morning's operations call came right on schedule. Zoom tiles filled the screen. Status updates, noise. Rick joined late. Camera off, mic muted. Just his name floating there. I delivered my updates calmly, like always. No tells, no reactions. After the call, I drafted a simple email, licensing reminder, clear language, attachments included, and quietly my attorney copied in. No drama, just gravity. 2 hours later, Rick replied demanding full admin access by end of day. I forwarded it once. Jenna called 7 minutes later. He's bluffing. Let him push. We'll crush it with paper. I listened, nodded, and let the silence do its work. I didn't panic, I didn't rage, I built. I mapped every angle he could try, every argument he might float. Then Jenna and I tore them apart one by one. 2 hours later, there was no room left for him to breathe. After that, I opened the admin panel, hit record, and walked through the system slowly, deliberately, documenting every control, every lock, every layer he'd never be able to touch. I narrated it all clearly, line by line, like I was building an evidence reel for a jury. When that was done, I exported the video and saved 2 copies, one on a drive, one in the cloud. Next, I grabbed the spare phone I used as a dev tester, flipped it to airplane mode, and set it to audio record. I tucked it inside a clean water bottle sleeve with the mic facing up. Low-tech, quiet, just enough to catch voices in a room if things went sideways. I wasn't paranoid, I was thorough. People like Rick count on you being reactive. They assume they'll knock you off balance just long enough to take control, but I don't rattle. I build, and I was building the cage he was walking into. That afternoon, I ran through every scenario out loud. Questions he might ask, ways he might bait me, backhanded comments to try and catch me off guard. I stood in my living room like it was a courtroom, answering them one by one. Why do you think you still control the system? I don't think I control it, I own it. Per contract, Section 12, Line 4, intellectual property developed externally and licensed to the company remains under the sole ownership of the developer. What makes you think we can't run operations without you? You're free to try, but that doesn't give you the right to access, copy, or replicate a system you don't legally own. I did this for hours, practiced until I didn't flinch when I said it, practiced until my voice came out flat, controlled, not angry. That part was the hardest, keeping the emotion out of it, because deep down, I wanted to shove every word right back in Rick's mouth. But that wouldn't get me what I wanted. I didn't need revenge, I needed the win. By sunset, I had every document labeled, every backup saved, and my answers clean. I even printed hard copies of the 3 most critical contracts and slid them into a folder labeled Ownership Enforcement, Dalton. Then I opened the email from Rick again, read it slowly, and laughed to myself. He really thought I'd cave, like I'd just hand it all over because he made demands in bold font. I plugged in the spare phone to charge, tested the mic, and slipped it back into the sleeve. It would sit beside my water bottle during the meeting. Nothing sketchy, just insurance. Then I leaned back on the couch and said it out loud one more time, calm and slow. You don't get to steal what you don't understand. I was ready. Let him try. I joined the meeting 1 minute early, camera on, mic muted. The spare phone sat beside my water bottle, recording quietly. I didn't touch it again. Rick joined right on time. Camera on this time. He wasn't alone. The CFO was there, Sandra Miller, tight smile, legal pad ready, and HR, Tom Alvarez, arms crossed, already bored. Rick didn't waste a second. We're going to get right to it, he said. This system has grown too critical to be controlled externally. It's time to transfer all operational control to the company. I nodded once. Okay. Sandra leaned forward. From a risk standpoint, this setup isn't sustainable. I clicked Share Screen. Before we go there, I want to reference the contract. Rick waved his hand. We've all read it. Then this won't take long, I said, pulling up Section 12. I highlighted the clause. Ownership of all intellectual property remains with May LLC. The company retains licensed usage rights only. Rick leaned back. That clause doesn't reflect reality anymore. The system is too integrated. You can't run core operations off something you don't control. I switched to the next slide. Continuity protocols, one-click backup architecture, redundancy maps, failover timelines. The system runs independently of my personal access, I said. There are automated backups every 6 minutes mirrored across 2 regions. Downtime over the last 12 months was under 9 minutes total. Sandra blinked. 9 minutes? Yes, I said, including maintenance windows. Rick cut in. That's not the point. The company needs full admin rights. No, I said. You want full admin rights. Tom finally spoke. Rick, let her finish. I pulled up the access hierarchy. Here's the separation. Operational admins, financial viewers, dispatch supervisors, core system control remains locked under my license. Rick shook his head. You're making yourself a single point of failure. I didn't raise my voice. That's incorrect. I clicked again. Here are the emergency access protocols, pre-approved triggers, third-party escrow access, everything documented. Sandra flipped through her notes. This is thorough. Rick's jaw tightened. You're dodging the issue. I stopped sharing my screen. No, I said. Now we're getting to it. I opened the log folder. On Tuesday morning at 6:42 a.m., there was an unauthorized replication attempt against the back-end API. Rick stiffened. What? I shared the screen again. Device ID, timestamp, username, Rick Dalton. This wasn't a login error, I said. This was a direct clone attempt. Tom's head snapped toward Rick. Is that accurate? Rick's voice sharpened. I was reviewing system dependencies. You bypassed the interface, I said. That's not review, that's access. Sandra frowned. Rick, did you request permission? Rick didn't answer. I clicked into the device fingerprint. Corporate laptop, main office, logged before standard hours. The room went quiet. Tom cleared his throat. Rick leaned forward, hands flat on the desk. This is getting off track. No, I said. This is the track. I stopped sharing my screen and looked straight into the camera. Per the contract, any unauthorized access attempt triggers immediate review and possible termination of license usage. Rick laughed once. It sounded forced. You're overplaying this. I didn't respond. He straightened in his chair. All right then, here's where we land. Effective immediately, your services are terminated. Sandra turned to him. Rick, he held up a hand. We'll handle the transition internally. Tom's mouth opened, then closed. I nodded slowly. Understood. Rick smirked. You'll provide full handover by end of day. I met his eyes. No, I won't. He scoffed. You don't have a choice. I closed my laptop, reached over and stopped the recording. I didn't rush. I didn't slam anything shut. I stood up, walked into my office, and closed the door behind me like it was a normal Tuesday. Then I sat down and documented everything. I wrote a clean timeline. Meeting start time, attendees, exact language Rick used, the moment he said terminated. No opinions, no heat. Just facts. I attached the recording, the access logs, and the contract excerpt he just tripped over. Then I invoked the clause.
Subject, contract termination trigger license revocation. Body, per Section 14, termination of my services by company leadership triggers immediate revocation of all platform usage rights. This revocation is effective immediately with no grace period and no handover requirement. A shutdown schedule is attached for operational clarity. Regards, Haley. I sent it to Rick, Lydia, the CFO, HR, legal, and my attorney. Then I attached the schedule. It was simple, clinical. Every component listed with a timestamp. Dispatch boards, 4 p.m. Driver mobile access, 4:10 p.m. Client portals, 4:15 p.m. Maintenance tracking, 4:20 p.m. Reporting dashboards, 4:30 p.m. No drama, no threats, just a clock.
At 3:58, my phone buzzed. Rick calling. I let it ring. At 4 p.m. sharp, I clicked disable on the dispatch boards. The screen refreshed. Active jobs froze. New assignments stopped populating. I watched the system respond exactly how I'd built it to. Emails started coming in within 2 minutes. Hey, dispatch is acting weird. Drivers can't see new calls. Is there an outage? I didn't reply. At 4:10, I shut off the driver mobile access. Phones stopped syncing. Location pings dropped. More emails. At 4:15, client portals went dark. Insurance partners lost visibility. Automated billing paused mid-cycle. My inbox filled up fast. Operations managers, yard supervisors, regional leads. Rick called again. I declined it. At 4:20, maintenance schedules went offline. DOT alerts stopped. Equipment status locked in read-only. Then Rick emailed me. Haley, this is excessive. We can work this out. Turn it back on. I stared at the message for a second, then archived it. This wasn't emotional, this was mechanical. He'd pulled a lever and the machine responded. At 4:25, I got a message from a yard manager I liked. Please tell me this is temporary. I typed one sentence, deleted it, and didn't send anything. At 4:30, I shut down the reporting dashboards. The final piece. No metrics, no visibility, just raw chaos behind the scenes. My phone buzzed nonstop. I set it face down. Rick emailed again. You're putting the company at risk. I didn't open it because the truth was simple. He'd already done that. I leaned back in my chair and watched the system logs roll in. Each shutdown confirmed, each access denial logged with a timestamp. Everything was doing exactly what it was supposed to do. This wasn't revenge. It was enforcement. I closed my laptop, stood up, and walked out of the office to grab a glass of water, letting the silence do the rest. I was halfway through my glass of water when the first real call came in. Lydia. I let it ring twice, then answered. Haley, what the hell is going on? Her voice was clipped, stressed, but not yelling. Yet. System access was revoked, I said calmly, per clause 14 of the license agreement. Rick terminated the contract. That triggered automatic shutdown. You're shutting down the whole company. No, I said. Rick did that. I'm just enforcing the terms he agreed to. She didn't respond right away. I heard her breathing, fast, shallow, phones ringing behind her. Can you at least slow it down? Just give us... I followed the timeline to the second. Everything was laid out in the email I sent at 3:13 p.m. Jesus. I stayed quiet. Then she hung up. At 4:28, another email hit. Rick again. Subject line, urgent, need a 1-hour pause. Body, Haley, this has gone too far. Please give us a 1-hour grace period to stabilize. No legal action, just a pause. Please. Rick. I didn't open it. I didn't have to. The subject line said everything. I walked back to my laptop, refreshed my inbox, and just watched. 32 unread messages in 10 minutes. Field managers, office admins, support staff, everyone realizing the lights weren't just flickering, they were off. Then, at 4:34 p.m. sharp, it hit my inbox. Subject, immediate reinstatement, license agreement. It was a scanned PDF signed by the board. Effective immediately, my service contract was reinstated in full, and all prior access rights restored under the original agreement. No renegotiation, no changes, just a full reversal. I read it twice, downloaded the file, saved it to 2 drives. Then I opened the admin panel. Everything was still frozen. Queues stalled, tickets pending, location data dead. It looked like a system from 20 years ago. I started reactivating one module at a time. Dispatch first, then driver sync, then portal access, maintenance logs, and reporting. As each part came back online, I sent one message to the team: license reinstated, access restored, system live. Haley. That was it. No apology, no recap, no fanfare. Within 5 minutes, the noise stopped. My inbox slowed. Calls stopped ringing. Rick didn't email again. He'd made his move. Thought he'd walk in, throw weight around, and leave with the system in his pocket. Instead, he'd triggered a full collapse, and I'd pulled the lever. There was no saving face now. He didn't just lose control, he exposed how little of it he had to begin with. The next day, Rick didn't show up to the morning ops call. No email, no camera, not even his name floating in the Zoom grid. Just gone. Nobody said anything at first, just moved on like normal. Driver delays, invoice errors, equipment needing replacement. But you could feel it in the pauses. People were waiting for someone to explain. No one did. The next day, same thing. No Rick. Then a full week passed. Still nothing. No memo, no HR update. Sandra and Tom kept showing up like business as usual, but if anyone brought up Rick, they skipped right over it, like he'd never been there. And that's when the rumors started. He suspended. He took a leave. Board asked him to resign. Legal told them to shut him down before Haley sued. Nobody knew. HR wasn't talking, and Lydia stopped showing up to meetings altogether. I didn't ask, didn't care. Whatever backroom deal they made, it had nothing to do with me anymore. 2 weeks after the shutdown, we got the invite. Subject: Introduction, Interim Operations Director. His name was Andrew Fitzgerald. No picture in the email, no background story, just joining effective immediately. Our first call with him was Monday morning. His camera came on. Clean background, button-down shirt, clear mic. He smiled, waved, and said, "Good morning, everyone. I'm here to learn, not shake anything up." Big difference already. He didn't dominate the call, didn't make speeches, just took notes, asked quick questions, and actually listened. You could tell this guy didn't come in with a script. Halfway through, I explained how the license structure protected both sides. He nodded. Honestly, that makes sense. Keeps expectations clean. When the call ended, I didn't feel tense for once. No alarms in my head, no need to prep a defense. He wasn't trying to take anything. He was just trying to run things without stepping on the engine that kept the company moving. And that, right there, was all I needed to know. 2 weeks after that one-on-one with Andrew, I got the email. Subject: Consulting Agreement Renewal. Draft for review. Attached was a new long-term contract, not some boilerplate crap. This one had teeth, clean compensation terms, tighter license language, and a new clause that made admin access requests a formal escalation with written approval required from both legal and tech. No shortcuts, no assumptions. I read every line, ran it past Jenna, and signed without edits. It felt different this time. They weren't treating me like a plug-in developer. I wasn't just the tech person anymore. I was the architect, and they finally acted like it. After the signing, Andrew scheduled a project review call. Not a lecture, not a pitch, just him and me going over what was working, what needed improving. He said, "If we're building more yards next year, I want to do it the right way, using your framework." I said, "That's the only way it works." From there, everything smoothed out. Projects moved forward, driver feedback came in cleaner, the system kept humming. There were no surprise logins, no vague emails asking about access protocols. Nobody touched what they weren't supposed to. It was quiet, functional, locked in. Rick, Not a word. Not in meetings, not in side chats, not in company updates. Just gone. His name vanished like bad code stripped from the back end. No mention, no goodbye, no fallout cleanup. Like the whole thing never happened. And I didn't ask because I didn't need some public apology or corporate write-up. I didn't need recognition. I needed control. And I kept it. What do you think? Was Rick bold or just plain stupid? Drop your take in the comments.